Hi, I'm John Stevenson. We're going to be talking about dating of the Psalms in our continuing study of the poetical books. Now, when I speak of dating of the Psalms, I don't mean taking it out on a date. I mean, when were they written? Hermann Gunkel was a German theologian, a professor of Old Testament at the Berlin University. He classified the Psalms into a number of different categories. Some of the categories that we use. He was strongly influenced by Wellhausen's documentary hypothesis. That hypothesis had said none of the Old Testament was written until very, very late in the Old Testament era. Denied even the existence of Moses or that the Israelites had actually come out of Egypt or anything like that. And he took the Psalms and he thought they were dated to the Maccabean period. That is around the 160s BC. Mowinckel comes on his heels. He taught at the University of Oslo and took Gunkel's ideas, further developed them. And he saw the Psalms from what he called a cultic perspective. That's not like when you go into some sort of strange cult, but rather these had religious applications. They were used in different festivals and in different cultic observances. He theorized the use of the Psalms in the fall festivals of Israel, in an annual ceremony which he called the enthronement of Yahweh. And it sounds very nice, but there's not a whole lot of evidence to support that. Now, some of that changed with the discovery of an ancient city at Ras Shamara. It was the city of Ugarit, and this was discovered in 1928. There was a farmer out plowing his field, and he hit a rock, and he said, "I don't want this big rock in my field," so he moved the rock, and there was a hole under it. It was actually a big cave. And he came down and looked, and there were all these strange-looking tablets. And archaeologists came, and they did an excavation and found the ancient city of Ugarit. It dates to 1400 BC. That was the high point of the city, continued all the way up into the 1200s, which gave us a virtual library. It gave us a virtual library to that period of history, and it included religious writings as well as actually just normal sorts of receipts and things like that, business transactions. But there were a number of languages that were exhibited, including the Ugaritic language, which apparently is a Semitic language. And that gave us the ability to find a language that was parallel to Hebrew. It's not the exact equivalent of Hebrew, but they're very close, and they share certain words. And it expanded our knowledge of biblical Hebrew, especially biblical Hebrew from the days of Moses and following. Now, that helps us with the Psalms, because the Psalms contain a lot of very graphic, poetic language. And we already talked about the structure of the Psalms being arranged into 5 books. That books 1 and 2 were written mostly by David. Book 3 was by Asaph. Book 4 mostly unknown, and Book 5 have still a lot of Psalms by David, which tells me right off the bat that the arrangement of the Book of Psalms is not chronological. And that brings up the question before the house: when were these Psalms composed? Well, if the superscriptions are correct, and I take them to be such, then quite a number of them were composed by David, and yet there are some that go far earlier, like Psalm 90 that is written by Moses, and Psalm 137 that makes reference to the Babylonian captivity. So, 1 Chronicles 16:4 speaks about David appointing some of the Levites as ministers before the ark of the Lord, even to celebrate and to thank and to praise the Lord God of Israel. He goes on to say, Asaph, the chief, and second to him Zechariah, then Jeliel, Shemaiah, Ramoth, Jehiel, Matthiah, Eliab, Benaiah, Obed-Edom, and Jael, with musical instruments, harps, lyres. Also Asaph played loud-sounding cymbals. He was maybe the drummer of the group. And Benaiah and Jahaziel, the priests, blew trumpets continually before the ark of the covenant of God. This speaks of music. This speaks, can I say it, of psalms. Now, that's speaking of when they were written, especially most of those by Asaph. That's that period of David and Solomon, and we've got psalms that are attributed to David, and many by David in Book 5. But as we noted, Book 4 actually starts with one of the psalms that's attributed to Moses. And so they're written at a wide variety of times, but when were the psalms collected? And when were they collected into their present format? 2 Chronicles chapter 29 and verse 30, speaking of the days of Hezekiah, and Hezekiah he's around 720 to 700 BC. Moreover, King Hezekiah and the officials ordered the Levites to sing praises to the Lord with the words of David and Asaph the seer. So notice, the order is being given as Hezekiah is bringing revival and a return to the temple worship. The order is being given to sing praises to the Lord with the words of David and Asaph. They're using the Psalms. And so they sang praises with joy and bowed down and they worshiped. And of course we have that latest song we've alluded to, Psalm 137, verses 1 through 4, by the rivers of Babylon. There we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. Upon the willows in the midst of it we hung our harps. For there our captors demanded of us songs, and our tormentors mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. And then he asked the rhetorical question, how can we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? So evidently this psalm is written at least as late as the Babylonian captivity. Of course, could have been written afterwards, but could not have been written before.